Helen Garner, welcome.
Thank you.
Why is it that your diaries now are receiving so much praise and attention worldwide, do you think?
I really don't know. I think they're good. I'm happy with them. I'm glad about them, and I'm glad they exist. And while I like them because they're written in a state of freedom. Because when I'm writing them, it never crosses my mind that A, anyone else is going to read them, or B, they're going to be published. So I think the writing that's in them is good. I mean, I think I write better in the diaries than I do in anything else that I try to do.
Is it possible also now that there is more welcoming of the details of domestic life than there may have been 20 or 30 years ago?
Yeah, and that may be because of the great onrush of feminism and how that's changed so many things and caused people to reevaluate things that were sort of brushed aside as trivial or too small to care about. When I first started writing, I guess back in the 70s, women writers, well, firstly we were all called women writers, we weren't just called writers. And we were often told that our work was on too small a scale, it was too domestic, and who cares about all this? And also there's too much in here about feelings. And I think that's something that struck me recently when I was in a court watching a trial. And I noticed that a barrister, a man, when he was examining his client, her evidence in chief, he said, and what was your feeling about that at the time? How were you feeling when you lived there? And I was really struck by this. I thought, that's really unusual for a man to ask that question. And I thought, I wonder if his very clever junior thought that up, or if it's become more natural.
There's another quality in the diaries that I particularly admire. I don't even know how to put it into words. Maybe vertiginous is a word I could use. It's the way you go from some deep reflection to something terribly small and simple, like, I bought a pen. I love that line. Why does I bought a pen have a place in your diary along with a profound reflection on something that's happening in your life?
Well, actually, for me to buy a pen is quite a large endeavour because I don't just write with any crappy old pen that I find lying around. I actually like... I once had a pen that I loved so much. It was a Mont Blanc shorthand pen. And one day I dropped it and it landed point down, nib down on the floor, and it got bent. And I took it to have it mended, and it was never the same. And so... I don't know, but I know what you're asking. There's a fantastic line right at the end of King Lear, Shakespeare's play King Lear, where King Lear is a wreck of a man, and he's out on the blasted heath, and his whole life has fallen apart because of his own stupidity, and he's being cared for by a faithful servant. And he's groaning to the heavens and saying, what a fool I've been, and my daughter is dead. And then suddenly he turns to the man and said, I pray you, sir, undo this button. And it's just that fabulous change of register that is so moving and wonderful.
I have to go straight to this because you just mentioned Mont Blanc pens, but the other side of it, along with women's business, of course, you know, the great universality of jealousy. I imagine that is something that causes people to talk to you a lot about your description of your discovery of the infidelity in the marriage and the fact that you are so honest about the rage that you are experiencing in that moment. Do you find that people talk to you about that scene more than others?
No, but I do have a feeling that women read that with glee, and I think it was Anne Enright who reviewed it, and she said, I really, really, really hope that bit is true. As if you almost don't dare to think that you could throw a saucepan full of beetroot soup at the kitchen wall.
You say, has anyone ever been so weak and helpless? What you said about yourself. I mean, clearly it turns out that nearly all of us have been so weak and helpless.
Well, yeah, and it's such a relief to know that I'm not the only one who's so weak and helpless. And a lot of people have come up to me, and this has been a great shock to me actually, that women have come up to me and said, that could be my marriage. And I was flabbergasted by that at first. I thought, what? And you're still in it? But it's made me think a lot about marriage and how difficult it can be for both people that are in it. How it's an enormous. Perhaps it's the hardest thing you ever do. It's harder than having kids. There are a lot of feelings that people don't want to admit to having, and jealousy is one, of course. You know, it's so shameful to be jealous, and you feel humiliated by jealousy. But I think I think it's probably true about men as well. But people have to sort of throttle back quite a lot of aggression to be married, to stay married, and to make the thing sail along and not keep sinking or tipping over and losing itself. And it's an enormous psychic labour, really.
That capacity you have for self-reflection, do you remember when you knew that you had something out of the ordinary in your capacity to observe what was going on inside yourself? I don't mean necessarily in a psychoanalytic way,
Yeah.
but in a writerly way.
I don't know what to say about that. I do know that all through my adult life people have, I was going to say reproached me for looking at things too hard or seeing things that they didn't want to be seen. So it was a great relief years ago for me to read the introduction to Nadine Gordimer's collected short stories, where she says, words to the effect of that writers have an ability to perceive things and notice things that's developed beyond the normal. And that's a feeling that you get, I think, from realising that you're actually good at seeing those things, and what you have to do then is fight to have the prerogative to say them and to show them.
People talk a lot about your, maybe they don't use the word brutal frankness, but your absolute frankness. Is that one of the things that is generating the great joy that people have in reading your diaries, is that you are able to occupy this space of complete, what feels like really stony honesty?
Oh, well, yeah, I hope so. I mean, see, I always wish everybody would be stonily honest. I really want to know what people really think
All the
and
time.
what really happened. And I sort of can't stand it when I can feel people are beating around the bush or they won't kind of come across. I sometimes I just wish that I wish that you didn't have to say on the front of a book, this is a novel or this is not a novel. I mean, there isn't a name for that thing that I now do, which is non-fiction, which is there's so much of it in the world now, and it's so marvellous to me. I always have this fantasy that people will be able to be sort of allowed to write a book, and it's called a book. It's not called a novel and it's not called non-fiction, it's just called what I wanted to say. And but there'd be some way of warning people before they bought it if they thought they were reading a novel, buying a novel. But this wonderful, this is a book, and that's all I'm going to tell you about it.
I want to move to your writing in court. You said, I knew exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. You had this revelation about yourself and your gifts, abilities, your role. I knew exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. What is it about that trial process that you felt so absolutely at home in?
I think it was the fact that my mind and my emotions were working in tandem. I do feel awestruck by the law, and I think law is a bit like religion. It's our efforts to bear what we've been handed to bear in life. And you see that happening. You see the law trying to trying to sort of smooth the awful jaggedness of people and make sense of it. And I think it's when I discovered courts and that you could go and watch a trial, I really thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I thought, now I can. It just seems to use up every part of me.
You said the other day that, I think at a festival, that you noticed this last time round in the mushroom case that you were losing the ability to hear everything in the court, and it may make it difficult to do this again.
Yeah, that is hard, and that's why I can't really do that work anymore. I've got hearing loss, and I've got hearing aids, and they sort of work, but they don't work very well in a court. Most courts have got terrible acoustic, and they and people mutter and murmur, and it drives me insane. And if I can't hear, people say, "Oh, but they've got special things that you can." But I'm sure that doesn't apply to the ordinary citizen sitting in the court.
I know you've written the mushroom tapes with your two excellent co-writers, so we're not going to spend a long time on there, but I just had one question that I kept thinking about in relation to that case is, did you have any insights about the motivation of the person found guilty of that crime?
No, I had sort of fantasies as it went along, thinking, well, maybe that's why she did it, and could that be a big enough reason to kill someone? And all three of us were bewildered by this, and the judge made a point of saying many times to the jury, but obviously we were listening, that the prosecution does not have to prove a motive. That's not part of a murder charge, because often, he said, often someone who commits a crime like this has no idea why they did it, and it's as if motive is a kind of a phantom idea that hovers around a really ugly act.
Do you find female accused murderers more interesting than male accused murderers, or the same?
No, I'm pretty interested in both, actually. I'm never surprised when I hear about a woman murdering someone.
Yeah, I read you said that before.
Yeah, and
what is that? What do you mean?
I think that women stifle in themselves a huge amount of rage, and we haven't got the wherewithal to express it much. I think that's why football's so important, by the way. I'm always trying to drag footy into everything.
This is something you wrote in your book about your grandson's football season, the book called The Season, and you're writing about an interview on 7:30 with two tradies who tried to save a whole group of school children in a bus who'd been involved in a horrible accident. Cameron, Dean, welcome to both of you. So Cameron, you ran over to the bus. What did you do first of all?
We were just running to the bus, and we could just see the wheels in the bottom of the bus. And
this is what you say about the interview. She wants to pay tribute to their guts and nerves. She leans forward over her desk, and in a voice that trembles, she thanks them, as if on behalf of their fellow citizens who are watching faint with horror. And do either of you two have kids?
Yeah.
We've got kids.
Yeah, we both do.
Did they know what you'd done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of you, thank you very much on behalf of all of us for speaking to us and for what you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're sitting at home watching 7:30 on your sofa. How did you intuit that is exactly what I was doing, because it is exactly what I was doing in that moment?
In that case, I suspect that I needed it. I needed you to say something about, because those two men were so marvellous and so moving in their a kind of inability to talk about what had happened to them. And I love the fact that you leaned forward and you sort of broke through the fourth wall, as it were, and you leaned forward. But I just felt that, it was an intuitive thing. I just sensed that you felt like I felt at that moment, and you broke through the formality of the situation to say it. And I thought, I bet lots of people watching it would have felt the same. That you want to say to those blokes, fucking good on you, mate. You beauty, you did this great thing. But there's no way we can communicate with them, so it has to be through you. And yeah, it's funny I'd forgotten that, but I loved it. I loved writing it, and I loved noticing it, and I'm really pleased you saw it.
Helen Garner, for everything that you have given us, and you've given us your time today, and I am very grateful. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.